Hi, Joe Coffey here for Premier Guitar. We are on location in Meridian, Mississippi. As guitar players, you'll know there are two things significant about Meridian. First of all, Peavey is here. Also, it's the birthplace of Jimmie Rodgers. So, we are at the Jimmie Rodgers Museum. We're going to go in and look at all the artifacts related to his career, and as you probably know, there are some very special guitars in there, one of which is arguably one of the most important guitars in America, maybe the world. Let's go in and take a look.
Hello.
Hi, Betty Lou. Joe
Hey,
Coffey.
Joe, nice to have you. We're so excited that Premier Guitar Magazine has chosen to visit the Jimmie Rodgers Museum.
You know, if you had to take a map of the U.S. and put some tacks on some must-see places as far as guitars are concerned, Meridian, Mississippi is one. You've got a very special guitar here. I'm excited to see that.
Right. Of course, we are the museum which represents the father of country music, Jimmie Rodgers. He was the first person ever inducted into the Music Hall of Fame, Country Music Hall of Fame. And when you think Jimmie Rodgers, you think country music, yodeling, and guitars. And this is certainly a great place for music lovers to come and learn more about Jimmie Rodgers, but especially to see the special instruments that we have here at the museum.
So what's this first piece we're going to look at?
Well, this first guitar is a double-neck Stella guitar, which was manufactured in New York in 1909. And it was donated to our museum by Weaver Mayflower of Arkansas. And you can look at it and you can tell it's very unusual because it's not shaped like a normal guitar. Being a guitar expert, I'm sure you can identify right away what's different about that guitar.
Well, it's a double neck, and the headstocks are connected at the top there. No frets on the top neck. That's very interesting.
That is very interesting, and we have a lot of people who come in here and they try to figure out how you play this and exactly how it works.
Well, definitely a neat piece. You can see a lot of wear and tear on this guitar. 1909, wow.
It was manufactured in 1909. This is unusual because it's actually a guitar that Jimmie Rodgers purchased for someone else. It's a Gibson guitar which was purchased by Jimmie Rodgers for Elsie McWilliams. And of course, Elsie McWilliams is the lady who wrote or helped write almost all of the Jimmie Rodgers music. And Elsie McWilliams has let us use this guitar on display. She was very interested in the museum, and her family was very interested in having a part in the museum, and so we're very proud to have this Gibson guitar. This is the original Jimmie Rodgers guitar, and it was donated to Jimmie Rodgers on June 27th, 1928. And was actually personally presented to Jimmie Rodgers in Washington, D.C. by Mr. C. Frederick Martin, who was president of the Martin Guitar Company. This specially made guitar is also seen in that world-famous photograph of the two thumbs up of Jimmie Rodgers. We keep this in a safe because it's so valuable, and we only remove it from the safe a few times a year so that we can check out the temperature and so that we can add the liquid for the temperature guide for the guitar. As you'll notice on the guitar, the writing on the guitar, Jimmie Rodgers is in mother of pearl. The guitar is beautiful. There's one addition that's been made, and that's a guard over the part of it, so where the pick guard is, you know.
I see. There's a small crack underneath the pick guard, and that's I believe Ernest Tubb added that. Is that correct?
Yes, he was concerned about the guitar, and of course you can see what a beautiful instrument it is. You and I were talking earlier, and you were identifying the material that the guitar is made from. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it's Adirondack red spruce. I mean, it's got that special shade you only see in Adirondack red spruce. Brazilian rosewood sides, ebony bridge. It's a Martin triple-aught 45, and it's made with top-of-the-line 45 appointments. And from what I understand, the story goes that Jimmie Rodgers had this guitar played with it. It's very significant because of, Jimmie Rodgers, obviously, the father of country music, which begat the rest of the music we listen to today, for the most part, in America. But Ernest Tubb actually had this guitar for quite a while.
He toured with it.
Tell me about how he ended up with it.
Well, he gave it back to Jimmie Rodgers' wife, and she had a lot of decision about what she should do with it. And she decided that she wanted it to be here where it could be safeguarded. Actually, Jimmie Rodgers was born in Meridian, Mississippi. He is buried here, and this museum was established in 1976 in his memory. And therefore, she said, that's the perfect place for the guitar. And of course, we take very good care of it, and the family is very proud to have this guitar here in the Jimmie Rodgers Museum.
I understand originally it was going to go to the Smithsonian, but they said they wouldn't put it on display permanently, so that's when the family said, forget it. We're taking it back to Meridian.
That's exactly right. It was so significant to the family and into the history of country music that they felt it should be on display all the time. And of course, it is on display all the time here at the Jimmie Rodgers Museum in Meridian, Mississippi. And of course, on the back of the guitar, we see the words thanks, which is what Jimmie always did. I'm not a guitar player, but I do value this guitar. But you can see the thanks that he always turned this backwards, after he entertained, and thanked the people for hearing him. Jimmie was a real ham. He loved his audiences. He wanted to please them, and he wanted them to know how much he appreciated them. This is really a replica of the same guitar.
Minus the pickguard.
Minus the pickguard.
So this is the Martin Triple Out 45 JR, made in 1996.
Right. And it's the number one of the certain series. I think it was number one of 100.
Serial number of 00. Oh, just serial number 1 of 100.
1 of 100 that were made by the Martin Guitar Company.
Sure enough, and it's signed by C.F. Martin IV.
Okay.
And of course, number 3, that's who signed that one and gave that to Jimmie in D.C.
All right. So these guitars are very important.
I'm nervous holding this.
I am too. I think I'm going to put this one back in the safe. As you'll notice, we have this in a safe, and we keep the temperature controlled, and this safe is locked constantly.
You can see it says Blue Yodel. It was supposed to say Blue Yodeler. Jimmie was the Blue Yodeler,
right,
as well as the singing brakeman. But they began to realize they were going to run out of room, so they just let it say Blue Yodel.
And that's appropriate because his songs were Blue Yodel, number 1, number 2, and on down the line. And we know his songs as the Blue Yodels. So this guitar is still very appropriate. We invite people to come and see these guitars for themselves because this is a very big part of American folk music, the development of country music from folk music, and Jimmie Rodgers, the father of country music.
And anybody can come here.
Yes, we are open on a regular basis, and you can call and come if we're not here when you are looking to come. We have a website, www.jimmierodgers.com, and remember, it's I-E and R-O-D when you start to look that up. But we are proud to be the birthplace of Jimmie Rodgers. We're proud to have the ability to perpetuate his memory and the music, which is so significant. After all, Bob Dylan said, after all, Jimmie Rodgers is the man who started it all.
At one time, the most popular recording artist in the entire world. As far as the history of recording and the distribution of popular music, he was the man, the first big star.
That's exactly right. And he only recorded about 5 years. He was sick and was dying at the time, but for having recorded only a short time, he was very popular. And we find that he's very popular not only in the United States, but in England, in Australia, in many other countries. Today we had a visitor who came from 12 hours away in Arkansas to celebrate their 53rd wedding anniversary because that's all they wanted to do on their 53rd wedding anniversary was to see the Jimmie Rodgers Museum and to buy every record he ever made. we do have some cassettes that we do sell, but when he got here he cried and said how he loved Jimmie Rodgers. And this was a gentleman that you wouldn't expect to be crying, but he was crying over his love for Jimmie Rodgers.
So you sell cassettes. What are you going to sell me this guitar for?
Nothing.
It's worth a shot.
It's not for sale.
Well, there you have it, Gearheads. A very important place on the map of American guitar making. the Jimmie Rodgers Museum in Meridian, Mississippi. Betty Lou, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for showing us around.
Thank you, and I think your magazine is great, and we wish you lots of luck.
Thank you very much. I'm Joe Coffey. You're tuned into PremierGuitar.com. Thanks.